What if I told you that the most important piece of American real estate isn't even in America? In 2026, the President Trump has pushed to acquire Greenland, has moved from a crazy idea to a national security policy. Today, we are breaking down why this frozen island, Greenland, is key to America's national security and the why is US willing to risk everything to control it. Most people think that the Atlantic Ocean is the gap between US and Russia. But in reality, if a nuclear missile is launched by Russia towards the USA, it doesn't cross the ocean. It flies over the North Pole. Greenland is at the geographical, more or less center. It sites exactly at the halfway of the flight path. To give an idea of the proximity, at its narrowest point, Greenland is only about 26 kilometers from Canada. By controlling this space, the US doesn't only gain land but also gain the most important time, which is the nuclear most precious resource. So it can detect what are the missiles which have been coming from the Russia. So in order to understand the exact threat from Russia, we have to understand why the urgency now. On February 6th of 2026, there was an agreement between the Russia and the US regarding the nuclear arms treaty. For the first time in decade, there was no limits on warheads and no inspectors on the ground. Russia has been activating Cold War era dead bases across the Arctic and testing hypersonic missiles that can bypass the traditional defenses. Greenland is home to Pitofik Space Base, the northmost US military installation. Its massive radar are the eyes of the world, scanning the horizon 24/7. Without the Greenland, or US would blind to a polar attack until it was too late. It's important to have Greenland by our side in order to detect any missiles which might come from Russia. Trump's vision for a Gold 2 missile shield literally begins and ends with the sensors on the land. So let's try to understand what exactly is the treaty. So this was the treaty which was signed in 2010, which entered into force on February 5, 2011, and it was extended till this year, till February 4, 2026. The main aim of this treaty was to reduce the risk of the nuclear war and limit the number of long-range nuclear weapons and increase the transparency between the US and the Russia. It involved all the inspection to verify compliance and focuses on only the strategic nuclear weapons. For example, the long-range weapons capable of hitting another country. Now, there were certain limits which are specified under this START treaty. First was the 700 deployed strategic launchers. These includes the intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, nuclear-capable heavy bombers. The second was that 1,550 deployed warheads. This is the maximum number of nuclear warheads that can be mounted on deployed missiles and bombers. Next is the 800 totally deployed and non-deployed launcher. It includes both operational and non-operational launch systems. So we need to understand why exactly is this important. It was the major last nuclear arms control treaty between the US and Russia. Now that it's not there, it prevents on-site inspection and it prevents an uncontrolled nuclear arm race. So both of the country can create enormous number of long-range hitting. So if indirectly it's a security threat to both of the countries. And that's one of the reasons that Trump wants to have the Greenland by its own side. So in order to detect any attack, before time, they can use Greenland for their purpose. Now, you have to understand that Russia is not the only player. China is also there because it has declared itself as a near Arctic state and it's mapping out what they call as a polar Silk Road. And Arctic, as in today's time, as Arctic ice is melting, new shipping routes are being created that could bypass the Suez Canal entirely. China has attempted to buy airports and build resource station in Greenland, moves the US bloc. Thus, what Trump is thinking that if the US doesn't own it, China will eventually influence it. And that's also not the he is pushing this so much. By securing Greenland, the US ensure that the world's most strategic new trade is under the control of the US. So currently, US also wants to control the trade monopoly. Now we have to understand this polar Silk Road and shipping routes. As global temperature rises, Arctic sea melts, new shipping routes are being created. Now for this, the faster trade, which is shipping from China to Europe via the Arctic, which is the northern sea route, can be up to 40% faster than the traditional route through the Suez Canal. They've also seen in past that any blockage in the Suez Canal can have enormous impact on everything, from oil prices, from trade deficit to everything. So China is also exploring other alternatives so that they can save up on the fuel, they can deliver their exports much more faster, and etc. Like the food. Now, there's another one. The next season is the rare earth minerals belt. Greenland has home to some of the world's largest deposits of rare earth minerals, which are essential for high-tech industry. China already has the 80 to 90% of the global processing capacity for rare earth. Investing in Greenland mines ensure that China maintain its monopoly on the material needed for EV batteries, smartphones, and advanced military tech. In 2000 AP, China officially declared it as a near Arctic state, despite being thousands of miles away from establishing presence. By bidding for infrastructure projects like the three airports and satellites stations shown in your phone, China aims to establish a physical and digital footprint in the region. Thus, China wants to have that. Okay. Finally, let's talk about the money. It's a gold mine. The Greenland is isn't a shield, but a gold mine, one of the largest deposits of rare earth mineral. The technology metals needed for everything from an iPhone to an Tesla to F-35 fighter jets. Right now, China nearly controls 90% of the rare earth minerals. And this is one of the reasons that Trump can't force China into much higher trades. He knows that rare earth mineral is something US lacks and they can't import that from China. So China can use that rare earth advantage in order to just uh, mitigate the Trump's tariff risk. So it's important that Trump gains the Greenland in order to also have that rare earth mineral advantage and it can reduce its dependency over China.